Hi everyone, Shred Monkey here, and this is a guitar lesson on power chords for beginner guitar players, and something that the first thing that a lot of people go to when they start learning the guitar is that they want to learn chords and power, and that's completely natural. Once you have the fundamentals down of how to hold the guitar and hold the pick and all that, chords, power chords, scales, things like that, those are some of the fundamentals you have to have nailed before you can start really playing the guitar. In this lesson, I'm going to be talking about and showing how to execute power chords. So to give you an idea of what a power chord is, it's that really cool sounding, hard, heavy rock chord that everybody would recognize. And it's a super easy technique to learn. It's central to guitar playing, not only in rock and metal and all that, but it's also used in jazz and blues, like especially electric blues, pop, even in other genres where the power chord is utilized. It's very important to know how to use it and to implement it in your playing. So to start off, we're going to start with the E power chord, E minor power chord. So what I'm doing here is I have my guitar, and down here is, if you're already familiar with regular chords, to execute an E minor power chord, you want to take this or whichever finger works out for you. And this string right here, right above the E string, you're going to hold it down on the second fret right there. And then you leave this one open. You don't play anything above those. You can, but for now we're just going to focus on two note power chords. And this second fret of the A string, when you apply the pressure to that, and again, you want to make sure that it's just the right amount of pressure, not too much, not too little. If you do too little, you'll get a harmonic. If you do too much, you get stiff and it affects your playing. You just make sure that it's pressed down, and then again you leave this open. And then when you're strumming the chord, with these kind of chords, I find it's very helpful to do an upstroke. So for example, your hand is already in position there to play the chord, and then you start from the A string, where the string that your finger's holding down. So as you can see, I'm right there, and then you do an upstroke like this. And an issue that a lot of beginner guitar players run into is that when they try to play that with a downstroke does work, but when you do a downstroke, you have to make sure that when you do the downstroke, you're not also hitting the other strings. It's a little tricky at first, but you can easily get the hang of it with enough practice. For example, if I wanted to play with a downstroke, the key to doing that right is to have kind of an upward and outward motion when you play it. So you don't want to play it like this. You want to play it more like this. The way that I found that it's easiest to do that is that when you pluck the power chord with a downward motion, you want to make sure that you're only putting emphasis on the E string, or most of your emphasis is put on the E string. Because if you don't do that, that's when you run into that problem where you strum all the strings. So again, you want to do it where, see how I'm doing this? I'm holding it and then I go. Another way to help solve that problem is to use the other fingers on your hand to mute the higher strings. So for example, if you wanted to do it this way, this is also very helpful. You could, of course, get your finger into position on the A string, second fret of the A string, as you can see what I'm doing right there. And none of these strings, you don't hold those down. Just make sure that you're holding this one right here, and this one's open. You don't push down any frets here. So when you've got that, and you want to make sure that this finger, that the padding of it is applied correctly or in the right place, so that you're not also accidentally pushing down on this one, which again, you can if you want, but for now we're focusing on the 2 strings. So with the other fingers, if you wanted to focus on applying just very, very light, just gently rest them on the rest of these strings so that they don't ring out. It's similar to the muting concept that I mentioned in one of my other videos. So when you have this down and you have your fingers kind of muting the other strings, you can play that chord without worrying about hitting the other strings. That's an E minor power chord. That's assuming only one note needs to be pushed down. Now we're going to get a little bit more complicated, and we're going to go into the power chords a little higher up on the neck. So for this example, I'll also use again an E chord, but this time I'm going to do it on the 12th fret. Similar concept as the last one, only this time both the A string and the E string are going to have fretted notes. So for example, I'm going to use my pointer finger, and I'm going to push down the 12th fret of the low E string right here, so that it should sound something like this. On the A string, on the 14th fret, as you can see right there, I'm going to rest either my ring finger or my middle finger or pinky, it doesn't matter, whichever one works out for you. Ultimately, what's important is that both of these frets are fretted, and it produces the same chord as the one we just did, E chord. What's cool about that chord is you can do a little slide afterwards. It has the same general feeling to it, but all around the neck, if you move all around the neck like that, you can do chords like that, but you have to make sure that the root note of your chord, which in this case will be an E, you want to make sure that that is the note that you're fretting on the low E string, on the big string, the low E string right here. And the A string, it's going to be 2 frets higher. So you don't want to do it on the same fret, because unless you're in drop tuning, then it will work. But if you're in standard tuning of any kind, it won't work. It'll just sound muddy and not right. So same thing, for example, on a G power chord. As you can see, my pointer finger is fretting the root note, the G on the low E string, and did I say high E string? I don't know, I can't remember. And on the A string, you want to make sure that the 5th fret, so it's 3rd fret here, 5th fret here, 3rd here, 5th right there, and it'll do the same thing. It'll produce the same kind of power chord. And once you have that down, once you have those the mechanics of that down, you can move up and down the neck to create cool chord progressions. For example, we'll just mess around a little bit. So we'll start on the high E power chord that I showed earlier, and we'll just kind of move around a little bit. So that's a fun little exercise, and what I did there essentially was I was just essentially going from the E chord and then went down to the this down here on the 9th fret, I believe it is. Yes, 9th fret, I'm sorry. It's going to be the excuse me, it's the 7th fret. I'm sorry, 7th fret on the low E string and 9th fret on the A string. And so, I'll give you a B chord essentially. But the theory of it isn't super important right now. It's just we're focusing on the chords and how to execute them mechanically, properly. So when you can do that, when you have the chords and the positioning down, when you have it in muscle memory, you can kind of mess around with it a little bit. And well, that's the end of this lesson. I hope it was helpful. If it wasn't, send me a comment or a message how it could be improved, and I will include that in another lesson. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.